Hi, I'm Sonya White Jaguar, and welcome to this edition of White Jaguar Wednesdays, my semi-monthly series where I discuss spiritual subjects inspired by your questions. After talking about the physical dimension last time, I asked Alan if we could talk about the higher dimension for today's video. I spoke with him earlier this week. He surprised me when he started off with a discussion about illusions, which I had mentioned in the last video when I said that I used to see our world as an illusion. He disagreed with that, and he had more to say about that this week. So here's what he said. I'd like to talk about the idea of illusions before continuing. An illusion is something that is not real. You are not an illusion. Your life is not an illusion. The life I lived as Alan is not an illusion. These are all experiences in consciousness. I'd like you to think about all experiences that have ever happened anywhere at any time as being a part of one life. That's what you are. That's what I am. We are all part of one life. You can acknowledge the life in you as being part of the life in everyone and everything else. You can look at life in different dimensions as life in another form. That's all it is. I'd like to tell you why I don't particularly care for the word illusion and thinking of your world as an illusion. The word illusion can be wrongly used to imply that your world doesn't matter, that your life or another person's life doesn't matter, or a species of animal or a seabed or whatever. Trust me when I say that everything and everyone in your world is precious to those of us here, because we recognize that you are there to have an experience. It may be comforting to think about where I am as your true home, where you'll return someday, but that should never be used as an excuse not to care about your world and mistreat it. We see what is going on in your world, and that's why I want to make this point. If your world was a mere illusion that had no meaning, then why bother having these conversations with us here? What would be the purpose of working with spirit guides or anyone else for that matter? You wouldn't need the help or advice because there would be no reason for it. So from here, Alan went on to talk about the higher dimension. So he said, the higher dimension is where the soul resides. In fact, the soul never leaves the higher dimension. We take the higher dimension with us wherever we go. We may think that the higher dimension is a place we go after we die and that it's separate from Earth. Nothing could be further from the truth. The higher dimension is not a place. It's an expanded state of awareness that lies outside physicality for the most part, but it can include the physical as well. The higher dimension can be accessed while we are incarnating. We don't have to wait for death in order to experience it. We are in the higher dimension when we are in a state of peace and when we are sending love, blessings, and healing energy to others. The higher dimension is a heart-based or love-based state. You can access the higher dimension anywhere and at any time by activating the heart, by activating love. Now, Alan reminded me of an experience that I'd had activating the heart in 2017. I had attended a seminar in Chicago that was taught by Dr. Eben Alexander. I've heard Dr. Alexander speak many times. You might have heard of him. He's a neurosurgeon who had a very vivid near-death experience in 2008, and he's written a few books, and he speaks quite often. The book about his near-death experience is called Proof of Heaven. Now, he and his partner encourage meditating while listening to brainwave entrainment recordings containing binaural beats, which can provide relaxation, healing, expanded states of awareness, and opportunities to talk with deceased loved ones too. Meditations are always included in their seminars. Now, back in 2017, because I was still new to working with Alan and we were experimenting with what he could do across dimensions, I asked him if he could participate in the meditations with me at Dr. Alexander's seminar in Chicago. And we had a remarkable experience. So I had journaled it at the time, and this story will be included in the sequel to the book I currently have on Wattpad, From Actor to Healer, Alan Rickman's New Life as a Spirit Guide. I'm working on that sequel now, and I hope to have it completed soon. So I'd like to share an excerpt from that passage because it demonstrates something that I learned from Alan about the higher dimension. Now here's what I had written. Before the start of class, Alan had asked if I would send my love out to the world during one of the meditations. There were 3 meditations during the seminar. The brainwave entrainment recording used for one of the meditations contained verbal guidance instructing us to connect with our heart center. This would be the perfect opportunity to do as Alan had asked. During the first few minutes of the meditation, I felt everyone's intention to connect with their heart. There were over 100 participants, so the energy was strong. A giant red heart appeared before my mind's eye as the energy in the room shifted. Later, as love was building in my heart, I told Alan I would send the love out to the world. As soon as the energy emanated out from my heart chakra, I was overcome with emotion. The only words I can use to describe what I felt then was God's love. I learned something in that moment. Holding love in your heart is a powerful exercise. However, when you send that love out to the world, you connect with a higher love that's in constant motion, sending healing and enlightenment. There's tremendous power in the movement of love. It is the light and healing of God. Clearly, this is what Alan had wanted me to experience. Later that night, Alan told me he'd participated in the 3 meditations as well. During the first one, he said, I saw a brilliant white light. It was moving closer and closer to me and finally fully enveloped me like a cocoon. I felt myself undergoing a spiritual transformation. I saw my parents in this lifetime as well as other family members who had passed. I was all around them and they were all around me. It's like we were one body or one mind. The last meditation was very different. I had an out-of-body experience. It's difficult to explain because I'm not in a physical body anymore like you are. However, I am still capable of what you would describe as an out-of-body experience. It is the soul achieving an expanded state of awareness. That can transpire while in a physical body or while incorporeal. I found myself floating above the earth and looking down at the planet. At one point, I felt the sensation of falling rapidly toward the earth. I felt the intense velocity and acceleration. I was scared for a moment, and then the feeling passed. I fell down through the clouds, and on the other side, I emerged in a brilliant white light. I felt like I was home, where I belonged, whole and complete. So I learned several things from this experience. I saw how important it is to activate the heart, that it is an experience of the higher dimension, as Alan had said earlier. And Alan's meditations taught me that in the higher dimension, we're actually capable of meditating, and we can continue to experience expanded states of awareness. Having a physical body is not required. So this week now I asked Alan what it's like being in the higher dimension without a physical body. So here's what he said. My perspective is analogous to, let's say, being on Earth and being able to see every star and every galaxy throughout the universe in perfect clarity. I wouldn't necessarily be able to see all the properties of every star, their mass, their luminosity, their distance from Earth, but I'd be able to see all of them perfectly. No star would be hidden from view. I asked him, so for you, is the material world like a computer image that you can zoom in and out of to see more detail? And he said, no, I think about the person or the object of my focus, and then I see the detail. The detail is revealed to me. I asked if it's like astral projection or remote viewing, and he said, yes, that's basically what he's doing. So astral projection and remote viewing are possible in the higher dimension. So he said to me, you're beginning to understand the nature of consciousness. I'm teaching you the best I can. Many of the things I can do, anyone can do in any dimension with practice, and training helps a lot. I have had some training here. Most guides go through rigorous training. And so then I said, okay, that brings up another question. Some people have asked me, what do you do all day? What do spirits do all day? And he said, that's a great question. There really are no limits to what we can do. You need to understand that all dimensions overlap or intersect, so we're not separate. Many of us work together and collaborate on projects, some here in our dimension, some in other dimensions. There are many collaborative efforts across many dimensions. Some of us are in school, just like you are in school on Earth. We have school here too, and we learn many things that help us grow. We are social, we work in groups, and we help each other. There is a lot of camaraderie, a lot of laughter. We are exploring the universe and other dimensions in great detail. Some of us, like me, want to work with the earth. We feel a special kinship with those who are incarnating, or with the land and the rivers and other elements. So we work with our area of interest and expertise to help those in the physical realm. You really have no idea how much assistance you have from the other side. It takes many forms. While you are aware of me as a spirit guide, there's so much more that you can't see. Now, I want to comment here about something that Dr. Eben Alexander says. He talks about something that he calls deep time, which is a different experience of time than what we experience here in the physical world. And he says that when we die, we see our loved ones on the other side, even if they're reincarnating. So Alan had said earlier that we never leave the higher dimension. The soul is always in the higher dimension. Our life here is just an experience that the soul is having. So in other words, we're multidimensional. Now I've journaled a lot of material from conversations that I've had with Alan since 2016. And I'd like to share something with you here from when Alan and I had talked in the past about our multidimensional nature. This will be in the next book. In addition to interacting with me here in the material world, Alan said he could also talk directly to my soul in his dimension. The notion that Alan could talk to me in two different dimensions was confusing. I asked him to explain this. The older man then appeared in my mind's eye. Wearing a light-colored suit, he stood at the front of an empty stage, addressing an audience of 1,000 people. Alan said, "All these people are having an experience of me." Then several newspaper articles were superimposed on top of the scene in rapid succession. He continued, "The media has an experience of me too." I understood where he was going. I said, "Fans would read the articles and also have an experience of you." Alan said, "It's as if I am everywhere at once, communicating with all these people at the same time. But really, each one is only one view. It's all a matter of perspective. I am only one person." I said, "Like you having an experience of me in both the physical world and the higher dimension. You have two views of me, but I am only one person." "That's it," he replied. It was still difficult for me to understand, but his explanation helped. Then Alan showed me another scene. This time, he stood outside an ice skating rink. He pointed out the dozens of children who were skating and talking to one another. He said he was able to observe the entire rink, that he could see everyone and hear every conversation at the same time. He perceived their linear experiences of time and space all at once. Because I was in a physical body, if I wanted to experience what was happening there, I would have to skate around the rink and listen to each conversation one at a time. Alan, on the other hand, was able to observe the whole thing at once because he was outside the rink. It reminds me too now that one of my friends who is a Reiki level 2 practitioner, we both give Reiki treatments at a weekly Reiki circle. Now Alan works with me every week and assists me, and my friend also asks Alan to help him during the healings at the same time. Now my friend sometimes hesitates to ask Alan for help because he feels like he's bothering him. And sometimes he forgets, that Alan is outside space and time. So he can literally be in multiple places at one time, helping many people at the same time. This is true. We can all ask Alan for assistance. He's willing to help us. So in closing, Alan asked me to share this last point with you. He said, "Here in the higher dimension, I have a greater perspective, that's all. I'm not separate from your world. I don't see everything, but I see more than I ever did when I was living." And that's the point I'd like to leave you with. You are so much more than your body, so much more than this one life. Know that you are part of something greater than yourself, and you have access to higher awareness and infinite love right now. It's not separate from you. The most important thing I can tell you is that you survived death, and you have access to a greater awareness, a greater love right now that can help you heal and heal your world. That's what the higher dimension is all about. You can reach into your heart and activate it right now. You can meditate or learn healing methods like Reiki if you want. Activities such as these can help, but I'm telling you, it's very simple. You don't have to look any farther than your own being because you carry the higher dimension with you in your heart everywhere you go. So that's what Alan had to say this week. Someone asked me recently if there are other ways to connect with Alan besides the video I have here on YouTube where I conducted a short meditation that allows you to talk directly with Alan. In the next video, I'll be discussing other ways that you can work with Alan, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, if you have questions, feel free to leave a comment below or email me at sonya@sonyawhitejaguar.com. You can subscribe to my channel here if you haven't already, and you're also welcome to sign up for my newsletter to receive updates on my website, SONYA'S.com. And that's all. See you next time.